I graduated from UC Berkeley. I interned at an ad agency where our primary client was Netflix. I did business development at a tech startup. I had all of these experiences. I did clubs, I had good grades, and I still couldn't get a job. It's so ironic that in hindsight, objectively, I can look back at my experiences and be like, wow, I can't believe I couldn't even land one entry-level gig. I think whether it was marketing, I know marketing coordinator roles, very entry-level positions, I wasn't even getting an interview for. So I think that just really speaks to
What important values do you think modern American society is missing?
I think overall compassion and empathy. I think a lot of people are just so worried about their own personal brand, about getting followers on Instagram and making their own money that they're so used to suppressing everyone else.
What do you think is the biggest issue in American society?
There is a lack of communication here in the US. I think both parties are very separated, and I think there has to be a middle ground in being able to be willing to sit at the table with someone that doesn't agree with you. I think that's the issue.
So I will start with prepared questions. So could you introduce yourself first?
Yeah, my name is Thai Seichao. I'm a sales development representative at Salesforce.
Can you tell me a bit about your educational background?
Yeah, I graduated from UC Berkeley 2023 and I majored in digital media studies.
Then let's start with the career part first. So could you walk me through your career path?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, for me, it was a tumultuous journey. I was just telling Hee-chan off camera here, but even speaking towards the end of my journey at UC Berkeley, you would think that someone that had went through 4 years at such a prestigious university, I was excited and happy for graduation. But in fact, it was actually the opposite. I think all my friends worked at some of the top consulting firms in finance, etc. They had all these jobs lined up a few months in advance, and here I was unemployed with a UC Berkeley degree. After I graduated around May of 2023, I decided to go backpacking with some of my good friends. We went to Vietnam, Thailand, Bali, and Japan. It was a really great experience just to be able to experience different cultures, different foods, a lot of great things as well. However, once I returned home, I didn't have a job. Things were really challenging for me. It really made me second guess a lot of the, activities, a lot of the experiences, even my major of what I was involved in within Berkeley. And I had the opportunity to join this program called Co-op. It was essentially a data analytics apprenticeship, essentially kind of like a nonprofit. And it was through that program I actually had the opportunity to attend Dreamforce 2023. If you don't know what that is the huge tech conference that Salesforce holds every year. Being able to beta new projects, get a bunch of free things, and a lot of celebrities are there. And so from that point on, I was really interested in breaking into tech. They were doing a lot of cutting edge things, being trailblazers with AI technology, and the rest was history. I actually got a referral through that program, and I ended up here at Salesforce working in tech sales. And although it was definitely a challenging process, I understand that there's a lot of challenges within the job market within the US. I graduated from UC Berkeley, one of the top public universities, and I even ran into some of those challenges as well. And I think ultimately, kind of seeing things in hindsight now, everything happens for a reason. I really do advocate that, timing is really important. I know a lot of people that had jobs lined up right after graduation that aren't at that company anymore or don't like it anymore. So yeah, for anyone that, has any sort of, is dealing with something similar, I understand where you're coming from. And I think with anything, it might sound cliche, but as long as you're doing the right things, working hard, you'll definitely end up where you belong. And it might be tough when you're in the moment, you have no job, you have no money, you're living at home, things might be tough, but honestly, be patient and the right opportunity will come.
You're really good at answering. So then people say that job hunting is really tough these days, and you already say about that, but do you feel that's true?
100%. And I think that's really a testament to my current role. I actually came across a TikTok video the other day where they were saying tech sales used to be a thing that you just fell into. You didn't really have to have that much experience, being able just to sell. I think there's this common conception oh, you're being a used car salesman, you're not really doing much, you're just kind of trying to shove meetings in people's faces. But I think the role has definitely shifted within the last few years because, for example, I'm someone that went to UC Berkeley and here I am working at tech sales and Salesforce. It's something that's sought after in a commodity. And I think that's what I'm noticing with a lot of these other roles. I think there is just such a huge, what's the word I'm looking for, scarcity of some of these jobs. So unfortunately, especially for new grads and people that are entry level, there's people that have 4 or 5 years of experience that are willing to take an entry level salary just because that's the only thing that they can get. So imagine, being fresh out of university, not having the experience, and then all of a sudden some guy that worked in sales for 5 years is competing for the same job. Right. And I think that's something unique about the job market today.
Even if you are a UC Berkeley student.
Yeah, And like, to put things into perspective, I graduated from UC Berkeley. I interned at an ad agency where our primary client was Netflix. I did business development at a tech startup. I had all of these experiences. I did clubs, I had good grades, and I still couldn't get a job. And I was actually just explaining that to my coworker today. It's so ironic that in hindsight, objectively, I can look back at my experiences and be like, wow, I can't believe I couldn't even land one entry-level gig. I think, whether it was marketing, I know like, marketing coordinator roles, very entry-level positions, I wasn't even getting an interview for. So I think that just really speaks to, you have to get a referral anywhere, trying to get your foot in. And I think, just trying to get your leg up somehow really goes a long way.
That's interesting. Then, were there any pivotal moments or key decisions that significantly shaped your career path?
That's a good question. I could share like a quick little story. I remember I was probably like 5-6 months into unemployment, and my mom was getting really impatient with me. She was like, "You're living at home, you're not really making any money. What are you gonna do?" And I think she would constantly send me these like really like whack jobs, like these like odd jobs, and being like, oh, they pay good and this and that. And I think the final turning point for me was she sent me this police operator job, and I think it was paying maybe like $70K a year or something like that. And it really, I think I got specifically offended by that one because it was like, no way. I went to UC Berkeley, studied hard, did all these internships just to be someone to pick up 911 calls and be like, hey, like, how can I help you? Ultimately, I just wanted to do something that I was truly passionate about, and something that I was basically pursuing my dreams. And I think that story basically kind of speaks to even when everyone's doubting you, maybe even including your family or your mom, you got to kind of push forward and be willing to go above and beyond.
Okay, then in Korea, so many students are very struggled with their career because it's hard to get a job. So I just want to ask to you, how do you carry your mindset at like tough situation?
That's a great question. And I do really think, once again, speaking back to some of the sports analogies, I think you're going to get, hit down a lot. A lot of people aren't going to believe in you. And ultimately, you have to be able to structure your day so that you know that you're doing the right things. I think I was unemployed for an entire year living at home, and so a lot of the self-doubt that I had, my mom sending me these whack jobs that, I felt like were dead-end jobs. I think ultimately you have to tell yourself, are you just going to be, another sheep in the system, another rat in the rat race? And I think although that might seem some like high-level advice, ultimately it's up to you whether or not you want to take things personal when you don't get a job and go above and beyond and do things that make you stand out, whether that is, once again, working for free, whether that is sending 10 cold messages to recruiters or jobs or companies that you wanted to work at. I think all these things are different demonstrations that you're willing to go above and beyond the typical person. And I think last but not least, like, we live in a society today where we have access to the internet, we have access to AI and ChatGPT. I would definitely recommend for any sort of student that maybe is in Korea struggling to find a job, straight up just put a prompt into ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm really interested in marketing. X, Y, and Z are some of my dream companies. Can you help me build out a plan that can help me land a job in whatever industry or job? I think ultimately being able to leverage some of your resources and do your due diligence, back to what I said about Gen Z being on our phones too much, like, let's use our phones to an advantage instead of just like watching YouTube all day,
Okay, then how has your identity influenced your approach to work and leadership?
Yeah, I think especially what you'll learn in big tech is that there is a lot of people that have came in through referrals, or their mom and dad knew someone in the C-suite. And so I think it really is just a testament to basically being able to break down some of those barriers. And I think having some of that grittiness from my background, from being unemployed for almost a year, really contributed to my success in the role. I think this might be perceived as bad advice, but I think something that's unique to me is I like to take things personally. A lot of times people tell you don't take things personally, things happen. Take things personally. Like, realize that if someone didn't give you the offer on the job, okay, I'm gonna go above and beyond and prove to you why you should have given me that job offer. And I stay up to date on LinkedIn with some of the recruiters that rejected me, just because it's a friendly reminder and some motivation. Once again, I'm a big basketball fan. I'm not sure if you guys have seen like Michael Jordan's The Last Dance series on Netflix. Like, take things personally. It's gonna take you a long way and really like show some of that emotion and compassion, and just don't be so like laid back. Like, understand that opportunities are going to be in front of you, and you got to take advantage of it. And one of my favorite quotes is, pressure is a privilege. Whenever you feel like you're scared or you're nervous for a promotion or something like that, being able to even have pressure on you is a true privilege, to testament of how far you've come, and you just got to execute.
Then just try and believe myself.
Always got to believe in yourself.
Okay, then like let's do the society theme. in that point, I think so many statistics say that young ages in this modern society are unhappy. And do you think that is one of the reasons? And why do you think people are unhappy in this modern society?
I think the short answer is phones. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but there's this video that was pretty popular on TikTok a few months ago where it was talking about there's been a lack of a third place. And what I mean by that is you always had a place to go work, you always had a place to go home, but there was always a third place that a lot of people had in the past, whether it was a bar, whether it was a club, whether, whatever it is, any sort of extracurricular activity. And I think we're so caught up in we go home, we go on our phones, and that's the end of the day. And I think there's been this false disconnect, or you can say connect with people that you see, right? You're checking out Instagram stories, Snapchat stories. Oh, like I've seen what they're doing on their day to day, but when's the last time you actually had a real conversation with them? I think it does create this false sense of connection. And I think ultimately what it really comes down to is just being human again and getting back down to layman's terms. I think going out to a bar on a weekday is kind of something that's a foreign concept to a lot of people now. Yeah, basically getting back to some of the things that make you happy. For example, I used to play a lot of basketball in high school, and now I catch myself not playing basketball as often. So I think basically really identifying with yourself, what are some things that really do make you happy outside of work, outside of the home, and really just taking advantage of that. I think that's where a lot of people are unhappy. But I think all in all, there's a lot of things that you can do naturally, just getting sunlight, being outside, that can really contribute to your happiness.
Then it would be some tough question, but what do you think is the biggest issue in American society, do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. I think not to get too deep into like politics and things like that, but I do think on a high level there is a lack of communication here in the US. I think both parties are very separated, and I think there has to be a middle ground in being able to be willing to sit at the table with someone that doesn't agree with you. I think that's the issue. Like, we are so polarized in what we believe in. I honestly don't care where where you come from or what you believe in, but I do believe there is value in being able to sit down and have a conversation with someone, even if you don't agree with them, just so that I can better understand you. You don't have to be my best friend. We honestly don't have to see each other again after this, but I think that overall communication is what's lacking within the US society specifically. And I think if we were able to sit down and just have a conversation without, getting in our feelings, you should be able to have open conversations. And I think you can learn a lot more than you'd expect.
Because there's always the reason why they think like that.
Yeah.
Okay, then living among diverse cultures, how did you manage to build and maintain good relationships despite cultural differences?
And I think it is really important to, identify once again some of the privileges you have, but also realize we're all human. And I think, things like family, things like love, things like laughing, these are some of the things that are universal wherever you're from. So I think being able to take a step back and once again be empathetic to where people, came from. And I think that, whether, I don't know, you're Asian, you're Mexican, you're black, you're white, I think we all have flaws. There's, different things that, there's different stereotypes about that may be true, may be untrue. But I think really giving yourself kind of like a clean slate and realizing that.
Okay, then in your experience, what important values do you think modern American society is missing?
I think overall, like compassion and empathy. I think a lot of people are just so worried about their own personal brand, about getting followers on Instagram and making their own money, that they're so like used to suppressing everyone else. I think the analogy of it's like crabs at the bottom of the bucket. All the crabs are always just pulling somebody else down. I think for a lot of people here in the U.S., if they found out, well, maybe not even just the U.S., but in any other country, if they were to find out their friend was making more money than them, they would be automatically envious, And I think for me, I'm someone that is happy for my friend to have a better opportunity than me and make more money, and so that we can all win. I think there's so much opportunity in this world. There's so much money in this world to be made. It doesn't always have to be about you.
Okay, then when I interview many people, so many people think about that we need love or compassion in our modern society. Then where is that come from, do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I think love really comes from. I feel like now I'm gonna try to it's gonna come off as super philosophical, but
That's right.
I think love comes from pain. I think another example is I've heard and read online that comedians, right, comics that make their living off of telling jokes, have the most traumatic backgrounds, and I think the most loving and caring people have really experienced some of the pain in their life, maybe even trauma. And I think ultimately because they've gone through something like that, they don't want anyone else to experience anything like that. And I've also seen the opposite, right? They've gone through so much pain, they hate the world, they want to cause pain on other people. And I think, similar to what Martin Luther King said, hate can't drive out hate, only love can do that. And I think ultimately when you run into some of these challenges, it's so easy to kind of fall into some of these bad habits. And I think ultimately it might be tough to still care about someone that might have bullied you or forgive someone that really did you dirty. But I feel like, once again, this is contradicting to what I said about taking things personally, but I think there are times where, you have to be able to take a step back and not take things personally and just have a really big picture, because having some of this hate in your heart, having some of these resentments, it's only going to hurt you more. So just being a little bit more open-minded like that.
Okay, then are you happy now?
Yeah, I would say so. I think happiness is a cyclical cycle. And what I mean by that is you can never be happy if you've never been sad. Like, you don't really understand the value of happiness until you've really gone through something like that. And as of today, I work with a really great company. I've been with my girlfriend for 5 years. She's been great to me. I have a loving family. I have a great job. I get paid and compensated fairly. So I think ultimately I am happy now. And I think obviously having something secured professionally, having, a kind of a career path moving forward, being able to be stable financially, and honestly have my own place to stay. I think these are all things that I never take for granted, just because moving back home and going through some of those challenges really made me humble and realize that all these little things that you might take advantage of really are privileges.
Okay, then it has been 2 years ago that I interviewed you. So how do you remember about that day?
It was funny because when I was explaining it to my coworkers, I was they had a happy hour planned here, and I was like, no, I think this is a pretty cool opportunity. I was like, yeah, I had this Korean journalist approach me at UC Berkeley, and I was always kind of curious, like, why did he reach out to me as opposed to anybody else on the Glade? I'm pretty sure he interviewed other people, but like, what kind of stood out to me? I think ultimately I really do appreciate kind of like your just directness and willing to kind of go out there and ask these people these questions. You mentioned, not being from here and just wanting to basically be proactive, initiate things. And I really do appreciate some of the grit and grind of this setup here. I think it's so easy to feel like you need to have all the best equipment in the world or whatever. But honestly, it really is about the stories, about the human connection. And as long as you're able to convey that, I think that's kind of what stood out to me from you 2 years ago.
Okay, then as someone who accepts my talk to you, if there's someone who is struggled or worried about meet new people or challenge something or meet new word, what would you say to them?
Just do it, man. I feel like that's the Nike saying. You just got to do it. You'll never know whether you're going to be good at something unless you really try it. And I know it sounds like cliche advice, but there's never a perfect time. You can have the best equipment in the world. You can practice for 100 days. You're never going to really have that sort of practice of actually doing something. And, really quickly, I think it's like the photography lesson, where essentially this photographer professor told half of the class, I need you guys to take one perfect photo, and he told the other half of the class, I want you guys to take as many photos as you can. And essentially, when they both came back, the people that were assigned to take as many photos as they can ended up having the better photos because they weren't worried about everything having to be perfect. I think that's really a testament to just doing things, willing to try new things, willing to fail fast, because anyone that's been an expert at anything started out bad at first.
Okay, let's go to the final topic, the life lesson. And if you have any regrets, what is the biggest regret in your life?
The biggest regret in my life, I think the only thing I can really think of are all the opportunities that I didn't take when I was younger. And I immediately go towards, I always wanted to do something like this. I always thought making a YouTube video or talking to other people that I wasn't really familiar with was something that I thought was really cool. In college, I remember I made some samples of this clothing brand. It was going to be UC Berkeley theme. Honestly, it was some really cool hats, and I never ended up following through with that because I was so worried about a supplier. And if I could go back in time, I wish I would have just ordered 30 hats from some random Alibaba website and just ran with it, and whether it went well, whether I lost some money, I wish I would have just done it. So I think this is something similar to what I've heard from a lot of these different podcasts and clips when you talk to old people on their deathbed and things like that. What are some of your biggest regrets? And they say it's all the opportunities I didn't take. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about this. It was I should have took more trips. I should have spent more time with the people I loved and taken all those opportunities. So yeah, I think some of the biggest regrets are the opportunities I didn't take advantage of. And so those are the only things that I really think about, where I'm at today.
So this is the final question, that if you could give a message to your future self, 10 years later, what would you give?
Yeah, if I had a message to my future self, I'd say hey man, I hope that you're doing well. I hope you have a nice house. I hope you have a loving family. And I hope that you've honestly remained humble. I think that's something that I've really prided myself in thus far, being able to still be the same person. If I were to come across someone that I knew from elementary school or high school, I would really be proud to say, if they were to talk to me, that's the same Thai. And so, yeah, I hope for you and all of your future endeavors that you're the same person, same humble guy, me and guy from Sacramento that, is still being goofy and having fun.
Okay, then I finished all of the questions, so let's finish this interview.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Those are some really good, thoughtful questions.
Thank you for meeting again.
Yeah, no worries. So you said you were here for, is it like a conference or an event?
No, just for interview.
And so right now, are you doing kind of like the interviewing full time? Is that
Yeah,
like,
yeah. For just 1 year.
And do you like study at university still or no?
I graduated
Oh, you graduated?
in this February.
Oh, congratulations.